Strategies for COVID and Beyond, organized by GLS University's Faculty of Business Administration, formerly known as NRBBA. GLS University is one of the India's leading private universities which has been set up with the vision to benchmark global standards of education and create path-breaking educational programs in the areas of national and global strategic importance. With a rich legacy of 9 decades, GLS University is committed to making education to all. Faculty of Business Administration was one of the first BBA colleges affiliated with Gujarat University, established in 1997 as GLS Institute of Business Administration and was later renamed as NR Institute of Business Administration in June 2000. In its 23 years of existence, NRBBA has always led the discussion and implementation of educational strategies which are futuristic. Continuing this legacy, we have planned this one-week FTP on the theme of hybrid teaching modalities, education strategies for COVID and beyond. The purpose is to deliberate on what hybrid modalities are, how they can be employed in teaching, what strategies needs to be developed, and how they can be implemented for the academic success. To help us navigate this yet uncharted future, we have with us today Professor Bhushan Trivedi. Professor Bhushan Trivedi, PhD, is working as the Dean, Faculty of Computer Technology at GLS University, and former Dean, Gujarat Technological University for MCA. He has completed almost 3 decades in higher education. He has 3 books, 2 SWAYAM MOOCs, 2 EPG Pathshala courses, 100-odd research papers, 4 patents, 23 effective teaching workshops across India, 8 workshops related to the research, 9 students who completed their PhDs, numerous speeches on pedagogy, security, AI, machine learning, and research to his credit. Professor Trivedi is an active life member of Computer Society of India, was Chairman Ahmedabad chapter in 2007. He is part of many programs and organizing committees of CSI Ahmedabad chapter, including position of program chair in ComNet 2015-16 held in February 2016. He is also a senior member of Academy of Computing Machinery. Professor Trivedi received an award for the work on effective teaching by IUCAA in 2009. He is also given Chapter Patron Award by Computer Society of India in 2011. We welcome you, sir, and request you to carry forward the proceedings.
Thanks for the introduction, madam. Okay, friends, probably the first question arises to your mind is that I'm not from management. And obviously I belong to a technical domain, and everything that you probably have heard about me related to something which is not management. And probably why you may consider this thing, why I'm invited to this place. Okay, fine friends, there are 2 things which I think make me suited for talking to you. One is that I'm working in teaching for many years and I've experimented a lot, and some of my research is into pedagogy. And you probably have also heard that I've arranged many effective teaching workshops. In fact, I've conducted almost 23 effective teaching workshops and many other speeches on pedagogy across India. So probably these are 2 reasons which I think are very important for me to be here talking to you. And obviously, I'm also a very active member of the SWAYAM group. I have 2 courses running on SWAYAM. Both of them are running on alternate semesters, and both of my courses are in top 20. So probably I'll be able to tell you a few things which you may be able to use in your own way. Anyway, I must tell you that I'm not an expert of your subject. I'm not an expert in how to make sure your students learn better. I'm not. You are the best judge. You know your subject well. You know your students well. You know your culture well. You know your conditions well. Okay. So you are the best judge. Then what should I be talking about? I'll be talking about some of the techniques, some of the tips that I can share with you, which I learned over the years. So what you're supposed to do is to just look at those tips, look at those ideas. And if you feel that they are applicable in your area, go ahead and do it. And if you need my help, I'm always there to help you out. And if something which you think, oh, not applicable at all in my context, is absolutely fine. So that is precisely what I'm trying to uh, um, I try to make background very clear about. Okay, so the first tip which I would like to share with all of you is that do not overuse technology. See, probably India is experiencing this online teaching modality right now. But then many leading universities of the world is already adopted it, and they are using it. In fact, in India, in Ahmedabad also, there is a place called DIICT. There is a place called uh, Petroleum University, where a lot of online education is being imparted. But one thing which I have learned from my own experience is that people misuse technology more uh, than actually put it to use for students to learn. Please understand, our objective is to make students learn, and many a times that is not happening. So there are many things you can use, like you can find out interactive tutorials and simulations and multimedia clips, and anything, something related to communication. You should be able to communicate with your students better. So wherever you can use technology for such purposes, there is nothing bad. But then I've seen people using PowerPoint slides, boring. I'm sorry to use that word, but most of us use extremely boring PowerPoint slides throughout their session. And it's so boring that not only online, even if you're offline, if you're in a conventional class, students dislike it to a very large extent. So never ever misuse technology for that. That is my point. So though technology is available and we have to go for online mode, uh, make sure that the lecture remains interactive, lecture remains, I would say, interesting. And how to do that, obviously, I cannot guide you because you are the best judge for your class. Anyway, I may be able to give you some tips about how to do that. Okay, so normally whenever e-content solution is to be provided, I'm talking about an Indian model, SWAYAM model. There are 4 different components they expect us to provide. One is the video. Okay. The second one is called e-text, which accompany the video. E-text talks about the complete content that you are going to deliver, and it narrates everything that you're supposed to convey to your students. And there is a section for further reading. So when students complete reading that part, going through that video, here are some pointers where students should be able to go and learn further. And the 4th component is a test. And I'll be giving you some tips about all 4 components one by one, because this is how I have developed my MOOC. And I was one of the first person to develop MOOC for SWAYAM. And let me tell you, I face a lot of problems and many issues which are not academic. I had to face them. So I would like to give you some tip about that, because again, see, eventually this model, the hybrid model, or whatever model that we talk about, online model, hybrid model, eventually will be having these 4 components there. And if you do not really know what to keep in those 4 components, you're not going to actually succeed delivering the thing to the extent that you should. Okay. So what you should do about your videos? So in fact, if you believe that I'm an expert, and there is something called curse of knowledge. It's a very, very popular term. Curse of knowledge is that you so much full of knowledge, you would like to deliver everything in an hour or whatever time that you given. If you do that, I don't think you're going to succeed in delivering your session well. Whenever you prepare videos, one of the best thing that you should do is to prepare a video which is simple, short, and conveying something which is complex and intricate, which otherwise is not possible to present. And if you want to really elaborate on this, if you know a bit about the learning objectives and Bloom's taxonomy, I would strongly advocate using higher Bloom levels, anything related to higher Bloom level for using those videos. Okay. Don't use videos for delivering, like talking about telling students what is the definition of X and definition of Y and how Y, X and Y are different. Those things actually you can do through some other means. Don't spend your time on videos, because videos otherwise, a long video will be very, very boring and you will not be able to convey your message there. Okay. Videos normally are also useful when you would like to show something which is step by step. For example, if I want my students to install something, it's always better to provide a video. So click here, click there, and the student should be able to complete the job on hand. So when there is something to be done that way, a video is a good idea. Flowchart is also an excellent idea which describes the process and also diversions in the process. I have an example which I'll be showing you soon. Okay, so this is what a flowchart looks like. Then there is something called animation. You probably, I don't know how many of you use animations, but animations are not hard. Let me tell you, very simple. And I'm using, you can see that I'm using simple animations in my slides. And why one should use animations and flowcharts and colorful things like this? Because most of us are visual learners. Please understand, our idea is to make sure our learner is engaged. And unless you place something colorful, something which is changing, something which is attractive, we are not going to make sure that they are going to stay with us for long. Okay, so it's very important for us to know that such things, it takes time, but then if you can spend time, or rather invest time, you will be able to get rich dividends. Okay, so you may be able to, or you should be able to use some animations. And PowerPoint has excellent animation capabilities. And there is something, there is the website by, there's a guy called, I just forgot. Let me remember, then I'll tell you. It's an excellent website and I learned many things from that. Oh, it's called presentationprocess.com. Excellent website. You may go there. There are a lot of videos on how to have simple animations and how you can put that into a grand effect. Okay, but do that. That is my point. So whenever you're talking about video should not include your own face and just talking. It's equally boring as you sitting in anybody else's class. So video should include all this, and I strongly recommend some part of animation should be there in the video. Okay. This is one more tip that I must clearly convey. Many of our teachers are reluctant in leaving anything out. Okay, for example, if you're given a topic to teach, you would always prefer to teach, or rather deliver, I don't use word teach, deliver everything from the beginning to the end in exact sequence as it appears in the book. Or it is a little different, but you would like to present everything that is there. Now, that's not a very good way of doing it for many reasons. And I can cite many research papers saying so, that students do not really learn much out of it if you do it that way. But the other problem is that if you do it that way, you will run short of time. Most of the time, you will come and complain to your head of the department that I don't have time. I'm not able to complete my syllabus on time, and so on and so forth. So if you can provide good e-text, and I use word handout. So if you prepare a good handout, which you can just refer to during your video or your online session, that there is a handout. I want all of you to work on it, and then we'll have a next session. If you have any queries on that, we'll discuss that. Kind of is a better solution. Okay, so please understand one thing, that students will learn anything by doing it themselves and not we telling them. Okay, so however hard it looks like, but it's the fact. So if you can do it, if you can, in fact, in class exercises are equally important. Okay, so during the, even in online classes, I often do, I often stop in the middle and then throw a question. But then don't just pick up student on cold and just ask them, oh, answer this question. Almost always give them time to reflect on the question, and keep the chat open for everyone so they can communicate to each other if there is a need. If you can do it, then fine, fire a question, wait for some time, let them discuss if there need be, then pick up anybody yourself. Don't pick up a volunteer. And there are reasons for everything that I'm talking about, but I'm not talking about effective teaching. I'm talking about delivering, providing a video of this thing. So continuous video is not a good idea. Okay, you should break in between. Even if there is a video, you're running a video, after 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whenever you feel appropriate, just stop the video, fire a question, give them some chance to reflect on it, and then pick up students and ask them. Okay, so if you do that, you'll be able to help them learn better. And you can do that better only if you keep away from saying everything in the video, because otherwise you will not get that time. Okay, so keep those things on the e-text. Keep video and e-text as a complementary thing to each other rather than containing same thing everywhere. Okay, so then and then you will be able to do that. Okay, here is an example flowchart that I have drawn for one of my MOOC courses. You can see that. See, this is related to a computer networks packet. So is the packet arrived? The packet, yes. If the packet is arrived, then this is to be done. Now see, what is the advantage of this kind of situation? If I have displayed entire flowchart on the screen, and this is the power of animation. The power of animation is not that it is actually showing something very glorious, entertaining. No, not that. That's not the purpose for which one should use animation. I'm showing you the real purpose of animation. The purpose of animation is to make sure your student is focused on the content that you want him to. Okay, and because it is being explored on the screen one by one, like you do when you take a conventional session, it becomes very easy for student to be connected with you and learn things the way you want him to learn. Otherwise, if you present the entire flowchart on the screen, it's not going to have that kind of an effect. So you can see that I can actually talk about each step one by one as if I'm doing it on the board. Okay, and this is the power of animation. So I'm not going to talk about this, but you can understand how easy this can be. And let me tell you, this animation, what the animation which I've used, you can learn it in 5 minutes. It's not hard. Okay, so if you can do that, your presentation will become extremely efficient. Okay. But there are many other additional tricks that you can play. You can provide other colors and many other things. Okay, but I'm not doing that right now. The other thing that I would suggest is that many of us have a habit of keeping things on like 5 points and just write 5 points on the slide. So instead of 5 points, you could use icons or images. But the best thing is to find out good online images and use them. Okay. So Pixabay is one place, and if you remember the first slide that I've shown, I've got that excellent picture from Pixabay.com. It's a website where you can get the images for free. Let me tell you, don't use any images from Google because it's a copyright breach issue. Okay, you will have to find out images with CC license, Creative Commons license, and use them in your thing. So if you use, instead of Google, if you use Binge, it will always show you CC this thing. So it becomes very easy for you to manage. But even if you use Google, there are ways to find out whether this image is a licensed image or not. So I would strongly advocate you not to use any image which is licensed, because that will land you into trouble sometime. Okay, I've talked about this. Google and Creative Commons license is something that you should always honor. But use them, because again, I was talking about that before. We are all learners and we all learn in a different way. Okay, because we are all different human beings, and researchers have worked on it and found out that most of us, almost 90% of us, are good at learning something when it is presented in a visual way. Okay, so if an image is presented to us, it becomes very easy for us to grasp that content. Many a times it is not the case, especially in the domains like law and others, where the text makes a lot of impact. Okay, the text is the boss there, but other places images makes a huge difference. So you may spend some time looking for images and use them in your presentation. Okay, as I said, Binge is something which is using images. All Creative Commons images are being used. Clipart, icons. So it's a very common thing. So if you have ever used PowerPoint, you probably have seen those. This thing, you can click on cliparts and icons, and there is something called 3D models also available today. So you can use whatever is available, and make sure that it is presented in a fashion that your students just get attached to it. Okay, it's your duty. Okay, even if, let me tell you, even if you are not teaching online, if you're teaching in a conventional class, the same thing applies. If you use boring PowerPoint slides containing only text, let me tell you, your students are not learning. Okay, and even if they are learning, is a miracle. Let me tell you, it is not so. Okay, or they may be learning because you may be doing something additional, maybe presenting a good case study or throwing some good questions at them, and so on and so forth. But the point is, it's very important for you to find out good images and use them. And again, anything that you're doing, you should not overdo it. So when you say that I'd like to use an image, find out an image for a concept which you would like to convey to your student more clearly. And obviously you will have to associate your learning objectives. So whenever and I always do that, and you should always do that. When you prepare a lesson plan, and I hope you doing that, you list things according to learning objectives, and find out the learning objectives which are of higher order, which demands more explanation, which demands more understanding. Find out appropriate images for them, find out appropriate videos if there is a need, and then arrange them accordingly. Don't just use images as you that come by. This is not a haphazard thing. This is something which has to be extremely structured. And if you can do that well, let me tell you, your content delivery will become so good, so rich in nature. You can't compare it with anything else. So anyway, so I'd like to halt for a minute and ask you a question. you all of you are teaching different subjects. What I want you to do is to think over, find out a topic of a typical subject which you think I cannot address that topic by a plain text. I need to use an image or something related, something which is visual. Okay. And just think over that. I may be asking some of you. Okay. What I want you to do is think of a subject that you teach, you mastered, or whatever. Find out a topic which is, yes, not easy, difficult for your students to grasp. And there is something which you cannot deliver by text satisfactorily. So you need to replace that by an image or a video or something. And you have to have some idea about that. You may have done it, you may not have done it, that's absolutely fine. I just want you to think it over and let me know what your idea is. I give all of you 2 minutes. I can pick up anybody at random from the participants list. So be ready. Okay. After 2 minutes, I'll pick anybody up. Go ahead. Okay, friends. Let me invite Chintan Rajani. Can you hear me? Chintan?
Hello.
Please. Please, Chintan, let me.
Yes, sir, I didn't get your question. Can you please pardon, sir?
Okay, leave it then. Bhavin, sorry, Bhavna Parwani. Bhavna?
Yeah, hello, sir.
Hello.
Sir, what you just asked about is like anything we can do related to keep the classroom interaction, which is a little challenging otherwise. Like we had a foundation course which was based.
I asked a pretty simple question, which I don't think you really paid attention to. Anyway, no problem.
Sir, I am listening to the entire session, sir.
My question was, give me a subject, give me a topic, and give me an alternate way, because you cannot teach that thing or convey your idea through a conventional text. Okay, so that was the thing. I've never asked for anything interaction or anything. So I don't think you got the question right.
Yeah, that's what, sir. That's yeah. So maybe I started in a different manner.
Which subject do you teach? Which subject are you talking about? Which subject do you are you talking about right now?
Sir, I teach accountancy.
Which subject?
So
you're talking about
financial
accountancy.
Right?
Which topic?
Yeah.
Sir,
consignment account, bank account,
let me know one
joint venture and then theory.
Which your students fail to understand just by simple plain text explanation. And you need time.
No, sir, there's nothing of that sort. Whatever.
No problem.
Yeah, sir. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, anyways, hello. Which text will you replace by which type of an image? Let me know.
Sorry, sir?
Which text in the context of your subject, your topic, which textual part will be replaced by an image?
So that's what I was telling you. I introduced one video where I wanted to talk about credit card transactions in one of my topics in FC. So that's what I introduced a video instead of text in the animation video.
Okay. So how credit card transactions take place? Step by step. Okay, I hope it is step-by-step introduction to how credit card transactions.
What happens when we swipe the card and how it is of the bank. What happens next? For that, I introduced a video instead of text, sir.
Okay, ठीक है, I got it.
All right, sir.
Fine.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Beena Patel.
Thank you.
Fine, Beena Patel. Beena, are you there? Beena? Beena? Chintan, I'll call you later. Beena? Are you present? Okay. Dr. Lakshmi Priya? Dr. Lakshmi Priya? Niti Vachani?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I am not a teacher. I am a postgraduate student.
Mm-hmm. Fine. So you would not like to answer this question?
No, sir. I would definitely try to attempt. I would definitely attempt it.
So nobody is going to fail you. There is no exam. So just try. If something goes wrong, I'm there to help. Don't worry.
Yes,
but at
sir.
least give a try.
Sir, basically, I would like to give an example about if we are teaching history. I'll give you an example of history.
No problem.
That,
you teaching history. What is the topic?
Sir, if we're talking about history or something like how people in earlier times used to live or how was their lifestyle. Now, if we try to explain it through text, students may or may not. But if we try to show them the image, they will.
Please keep your. Yeah.
If we are trying to explain through paragraph, students are supposed to get it. But along with paragraph, or if we substitute image, like for example, how people used to carry out their daily routine, if we show them a picture, students will be able to get a better idea.
Excellent example. This is precisely what I'm trying to convey. Yes, this is what you're supposed to do. This is not a hard exercise. This is very simple. Something they can easily understand by visualizing it rather than you narrating them. Okay. So they should be able to visualize that and they should be able to understand. So this is a very simple thing which I asked, and what I want all of you to do whenever you prepare your PowerPoint slide, that which I should choose for visualizing. And how will I do it? How will I get those images? But then getting an image in today's world is very, very easy, as I've already talked about. So get appropriate image and use. And I think you've given an excellent example. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So Chintan, I think you raised your hand. What was it?
Yeah, sir. Actually, I just want to answer the same thing. The subjects which I teach and how I use the visualization in that subject with help of image and other.
Which subject?
Sir, I used to teach business analytics, business statistics, and sales and distribution.
Business analytics. Okay.
Yes.
So where will you use images?
Sir, in most of the topics in business analytics, whether it is related to visualization or whether it is related to some technical topic like regression analysis or other topic, generally I use the visual graphs, right? Like again, different kind of charts and graph to explain them.
What is the topic that you are teaching where the text cannot work and you need an image?
Generally, sir, like
talking about don't give me a general answer. You're talking about regression analysis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, which regression analysis? Polynomial regression, multiple regression?
In polynomial and multiple regression, graphs are possible, but let's say logistic regression.
So what kind of image will you use for logistic regression?
So, sir, logistic regression in that, like again, it is not possible to show any curvilinear images. So, in that, I generally use the output which was generated by the software to make them interpret the outputs and make it simple for the people.
Anyway, I'm looking for a case where you can replace a text by an image, not by an output or a diagram. Anyway, it's just fine. So friends, I think many of you are getting this, and you're also getting one more thing, an idea about how to wake your audience up. Okay. So some of you were not really participating, I'm sorry to say, but when I probed, you started doing so. And this is a common thing to be done. Let me tell you, this is not the problem with online classes as often said. This is a problem with conventional classes as well, and you need to wake them up as well. So having an in-class activity or other many in-class activities is something that you can really should use. Okay, and there are papers available. There is something called active learning exercises, and so on. I may be able to throw some light on them, but those things are critically important for your students to learn. And many a times they feel offended. Oh, why you're asking me? Because I'm asking, and you probably have seen I'm not chosen volunteers. I've asked specific participant directly. So once you know that anybody can be asked, see, problem is when I give you 2 minutes, you have all the time in the world to think about yesterday's IPL game or how good Kareena Kapoor is and so on and so forth is your choice. But then if you know that I may be the next target, I may be the person who is asked, most probably you will think on what I want you to think on. If I start picking up volunteers, you know that some volunteer will raise his hand and respond back, and I have no reason to actually work on what the teacher is asking me to, and you will not do it. And that's the reason why I do not want you to pick up volunteers whenever you give an in-class exercise. So this is something which I strongly recommend. Okay. Anyway, let us move on. Let us talk about, continue talking about what we were discussing. I hope I awakened you all. Okay. Whenever you want to improve your presentation, I would like to tell you one thing. You can always draw your images yourself. You may be a very bad, I'm not really very good person for drawing images myself. Let me tell you an incident that happened long back when I think I was in 4th or 5th, and my drawing teacher gave me, or the entire class, some assignment for drawing, and I did do something, and in my opinion I've done an excellent job. The teacher came and asked, Bhushan, what did you do? What did you draw? I said, Panihari, sir. Panihari is the lady carrying that pot on the head. So my teacher just told me, Bhushan, why don't you write beneath so somebody can understand what it is? So you can understand how good I am on drawing things. But then there are ways to do that. In fact, there are many simple images available, and there are simple tricks that you can play with them. For example, Pixabay will provide you something of vector images. You can divide that into different parts. PowerPoint provides you shapes, and I would have loved to show you all that myself, doing all that, but we don't have time. Okay, because and again the session is not for that purpose. But you can do wonders with those things. Okay, there are a lot of things available which is there. You just have to break that thing and rejoin them, and you will be able to do a great job. You can use a PowerPoint clip art, and you may not use it directly as it is. There are ways to color them. There are ways to provide, I would say, shades to them, convert them into 3D images. Okay, and there are a lot of things available that you can try and do. And my this thing rule is that I will not use anything default. You probably have seen my PowerPoint slides. I'm not using default PowerPoint slides, which are extremely boring in my own opinion. In fact, I used to use that long back without really knowing that it is that boring. But some of my students were brave enough to tell me so. And then I look back and realize that, yes, I was doing a mistake. So let me tell you, it is really difficult for us to realize that default PowerPoint things or stuff does not really, I would say, present you well. So there are many things that you can try. You can have your own text boxes, and I have my own text boxes. In fact, I've made it transparent also. It is possible. And let me tell you, there is no great thing. You can just go to presentationprocess.com and you will find almost everything that I've done I've learned from their examples and have done here. So this is nothing really great about me. It's something which is already available, and I'm just using them in my own fashion. Okay, have your own fonts. So nobody tells you to use the same old Windows PowerPoint font that are given to you. Find out the font that conveys your idea. Be little creative, be little, do some experimentation. You'll be able to do a much better job. Okay. But and again I tell you, use simple but effective animations. And don't use animations for glorifying things. Make sure that animations, because see, if you have seen, I'm actually showing one thing at a time. So you remain focused on what I want you to remain focused. If I've shown you all three things together, when I'm talking about say one, probably some of you are reading second and third part. And that is not going to serve my purpose. Okay. If I'm showing you one and only one is visible on the screen, you're where I want you to be. And that also, it's very, very interesting. It's a psychological principle. Whenever something is hidden, people are always interested in learning what is hidden. So whenever the second point starts appearing, everybody will try to at least look at that and try to figure out what it is. Okay, so it's a psychological element in making sure that the students actually go and read. So use such animations and you'll be able to do a wonder. Okay, and there is something called 3D models. And Diwali is already on the cards. See that? See, this is something, and I've not done anything. I've just copied PowerPoint 3D model here. You can see that a 3D gift wrapped this thing box is being shown on the screen. How you use that is your choice. Okay. And this is the other one. There are many others available. How you put to use is your own imagination, your own context, your own idea. See, you will have to think that way. This is something which is complex. My student will not grasp it as it is. I'll have to show them this thing in a very meaningful, very different, very attractive fashion. Then find some tool to do that. You may not need 3D models. You may use a simple image, or you may use a very simple image with a little bit of animation, or whatever. Okay, so choice is yours. Experiment a bit and you should be able to do a fantastic job. And it is also possible in PowerPoint to do it in an interactive fashion. See, these are interactive. Now this is interactive. So if you can see, there is a hand coming up whenever. So if I click there, see, this is animated. And now when I click here, this is animated. And I can actually click two things at a time, possible. Okay, so you can use interactivity as well. Choice is yours, and you don't need to use anything for the sake of using it. Please, again and again, let me tell you that you are the master of your subject. You are the master of your topic. You know where your students fumble to understand things. and you must do it. And if you don't do that well, I don't think you're a good teacher. I'm sorry to say that. You have to be very, very clear about what are the pain points for my students. And then here are some ways of addressing those pain points. Okay. So find out the way you should be able to do that. Okay, here is an example that I have done for my own subject. So it is about when I teach my students wireless communication, and I say that there is something called, you probably all of you have seen this router, wireless router that is installed in almost everybody's house today. It sends signals in all directions with three things: beacon frames with something called service set identifier, and there is something called challenge information. So this animation can tell this thing very, very easily to my students. I don't need to actually tell them anything specific. It's so easy for them to understand. Okay, and this is the other one. Now, how will the receiver receive it? So this is an example where there are 14 different channels available on wireless this thing, and in India it is 13. US it is 12 out of 14 that are actually available for transmission. So what the receiver does, actually switch over from one to last channel and see if the signals are coming on that. So this is again an example of how you can use animation to help your student learn things very easily. And let me tell you, as I'm again and again I'm telling you that these animations are not difficult animations. You need to pay some time. It's not that you just write text and it starts working. You need to do something, but then and it is worth doing it because it's going to present your idea in a much better fashion than it normally does, and it makes more sense for online sessions, because obviously online sessions you can't keep a watch on them. You in a class actually because they fear you, they don't normally look at on other sides. They try to make sure that they keep the eye contact with you and so on and so forth. But when you're talking about online, it's not the case. If you have a good animation, there is every chance that they are interested. Okay, and this is one more example which I would like to talk about. So that it's about collision of two different signals. So you can see that two different signals are identified by different colors, and now you can see that when the signals are collided, the resultant signal is of very different type and carries no meaning for the receiver. And you can see that the simple animation can convey my idea. Okay, so these are the things that I want you to work on. Okay, now there are a few things which I'd like to quickly touch upon before we conclude. Most of us, and I'm sorry to say that, most of us do not really pay attention to the testing part. Okay, you pay a lot of attention to the rest, but your test many a times are not really aligned with the standard. Obviously, the right set of questions always depend on the right set of learning objectives. If you have your right learning objectives ready, you should know that I'm going to test those learning objectives, and then you draw question based on that is absolutely fine. Okay, and I've seen some of us are doing it, but most of us don't do it. So I have seen cases, in fact, I've done a lot of research on it, that you teach something, you ask something else in your assignments, and when you test them, you're doing something entirely different. And then, I'm sorry to say again, you blame that your students don't use their mind because they don't really understand what you have asked. In many cases, you may be right, but then I've seen many cases myself where your questions are not aligned with your content, your learning objectives. And if it is the case, it is better to rectify those problems. Okay. obviously long stem and short options are always better for MCQs. Okay, don't have long options because that tend to confuse students more. And remember, they are working on the hard pressed because they have time limit. Okay, and they have to work on that time limit. They have more chances of getting confused because, let me tell you, you all teachers, and you're far more comfortable in your skills your students are. Even when I asked you a question, how many of you fumbled? It is always the case. It is natural. It is psychological. You never expect me to stop and ask you a question. When I did, you just fumbled. That's so common. Okay, so make sure that they are not confused. Ambiguities exist. Let me tell you, in however experienced you are, whenever you draw your first question paper, first version of your question paper, there are ambiguities. It's always better you take the test yourself. Use standard nomenclature. Don't use words which carry ambiguous meaning. Make sure that you ask something which your students understand. And let me tell you, may think that it is common. It is this is something which I should not be talking about. Let me tell you, these are the most serious source of errors. Not only that, you'll be surprised. This is one of the major contributors to bad feedbacks, bad exams because of this. Okay, take the test yourself. Include examples. Okay, provide and case studies. Okay, and applications. Okay. Don't just ask plain vanilla questions. What is X and what is Y? That's not the right way. Obviously, because if you do that, you're not addressing higher order learning objectives. You must include higher order learning objectives. In case of short notes and technical notes, many a times this is something which is critical part of your subject. Okay, here are 2-3 things which I'd like to share. You have to have unambiguous evaluation criteria. If your evaluation criteria evolve along with the subject, let me tell you, it's going to create a lot of problems. And these are actually the reasons for bad feedbacks. Okay, and people have not paid attention to this and get bad feedback just because of this. You have to have very clear idea about how you're going to evaluate your students. And it's always a good idea to provide good and bad examples. For example, one of my teachers used to teach students, he used to teach communication skills. So, and he was very unimpressed about the performance of students. And then I said, let us try something. So we did one thing. In fact, we found out a very bad example of something. I think it was a leave report or something. I don't exactly remember. And we just shared that. And when we shared that, we found out that students were very good in finding out all errors from it. And when students were able to find out errors, what we used to tell them, whenever you write your own version, please make sure you do not make these mistakes. And we had a far better version of leave reports. Not only that, we could always invite peer reviewing, and this is also a very good thing. So you can let different groups write their leave reports and then exchange, and let they criticize on it and then exchange and so on. So such things makes a lot of difference here. Okay, so peer evaluation, in my opinion, is also an excellent idea for such cases. And you'll have to include varieties of all types of learners. Verbal, there are verbal learners who would like to prefer words over visuals, visual learners who prefer visuals. There are people who would prefer to deal with abstract things like mathematics. There are people who would like to deal with real world, like real world examples and all that. There are people who are good at analyzing things, breaking things apart and learning. There are others who are good at combining things together. Okay, there are people who would better have a holistic view of everything and then take decisions. And there are people who are systematically and sequentially building things up. So if you have varieties of questions for all learners, you are not biased towards one typical type of learner. Okay, I can elaborate on everything, but let me tell you, you know your subject and you know your students, to make sure you address all of them. Okay, that is the point here. Do not hesitate in initiating in-class activities. Okay. And there are many ways of doing it. And this is the other one. Many of us stop in the middle and say that any questions, or is there any query? And what happens after that is a stony silence. Such a question is a waste of time. What we need to do is to ask questions which addresses higher Bloom level if possible. And here are some examples. And suppose you are in the middle of a derivation, what will you do next? Or what you talked about something, think about an application of this. Okay. Or when you talked about something which is abstract, say, okay, what do you think? How do you think this can be applied to real world? So find out such questions and use them. So this is the other thing which I would like to suggest. And use handouts, because you will not be able to cover everything in your class. And Richard Filder's one of the statements which I like, a teacher's goal should not be to cover the syllabus, but uncover the syllabus. So uncovering a syllabus, you need to talk about, probe deeper in cases where students need you there. And when the students do not need you to, like reading definitions and comparing simple things and so on and so forth, and listing characteristics of something, or writing chronological events of some historical things. Okay, so you do not need your students there. So use that part, keep them in the handout. Okay, so these are my advices. With that note, I'd like to conclude. I think I'm on time. So, but then fine, I'll be more than happy to respond to any queries that you have, friends. Let me stop presenting. Okay, friends, let me know if you have any queries about anything that I talked about. Hello. Hello. Any queries?
We thank you, sir, for sharing your views with us. We will now be sharing some of the questions or queries that our participants have posed. Participants, I request you to please send me your queries on the chat box to Professor Rikita Thakkar. I'll just share it with sir.
No problem.
Sir, there is a question from Tamanna, Professor Tamanna. She says, can you please guide for innovative presentations for the subject of business law?
I don't exactly get her point. What does she want me to do?
She wants your guidance for how to make presentations for the subject of business law.
See, business law is not my cup of tea. So I'm sorry. That is what I've told you. You know your subject, you know your students, you know your culture. So you are the best judge. But point is, you must find out exactly what are the pain points, which are the things which your student failed to understand. and conventionally you will not be able to, it will not sink in. So then you will have to find alternate methods, and I've shown you some alternate methods. You will have to actually find out something which suits in your case yourself. I don't think I'll be able to help you much, but then I can help you if you have some examples yourself. Say I can do it X way, I can do it Y way, then I can give you some help on that. But business law, as I said, it's not my cup of tea. It would be very difficult for me to say anything on business law.
Okay, thank you, sir. One more question is there. How to be innovative in the accountancy subject, sir?
In fact, innovative, you can be innovative anywhere. For example, in an accountancy, you just give a handout about something where the complete sum is calculated. Okay. And there is something wrong. Tell them to find out what is wrong. I don't think I've not seen teachers trying that, but it's an excellent way in finding out. Because see, what the example that I gave you is of a real world. See, accountancy, what you are supposed to do is to learn how accountancy is applied in real world. In real world, you see an account and you will have to find out a problem somewhere. There is something which is not getting you an answer. You will have to find out that this is the place where there is an entry which is wrong. So that kind of solution, that kind of innovative things which matches with the real world, I believe is very, very critical and important for you. The other thing is that you can visualize the accountancy process itself properly. How the entries are made and how they are reflected till the end. If we can provide a good animation and visualization, can be an excellent thing to do.
Okay, sir, one more question. For accounts, it's very tough to conduct session in online way. So how the sums should be made understood to the students is the question.
You should use handouts. This is precisely the job of handouts. They have a handouts. Let them work on it. Let them come with queries and then you solve queries. You tell them what is wrong where. You have to be interactive. You cannot just write the sum. And let me tell you, you may not believe, but even in a conventional fashion, whenever you are doing it on the board and students are copying, they are not learning. As an MCA, I have studied accountancy as a subject, and one of my teacher was one of the great accountants. But then we were all just copying things without really knowing what we were doing. So if you want them to really learn that subject, you will have to do it that way. Handout is an excellent thing that you can try there. Okay. Because it's a solved problem or the solved example given to. And then it is handout with gaps. So you omit specifically things which are, I would say, very, very hard for a student to immediately guess or understand. So they'll have to beat their head with that part and get that thing done. So if they don't do anything, when they see, the problem with conventional teaching is when you are teaching to students and when you're teaching accountancy, when you're doing it, you are a master and you do it in such a great way that a student says, oh, it's so simple, I'm getting everything. But then when he starts doing it, he realizes that, oh, it's something that is not my cup of tea, I'm lost. Okay, and that feel will not come in a conventional class unless you provide a handout. And let him beat his head, and even if he is not able to answer that question, is not able to solve that question, at least that goes into his mind that this is something that I need to master. This is not that easy at the end of a class. Okay, and then if you have done that, given handout, and this is my own experience, when you give handout and provide them all that, and when they are not able to do that, at least they pay much better attention to you when you explain them. Otherwise, they don't really differentiate between something which is really complex and something which is plain easy. Okay, and this kind of a strategy will help them understand the difference, and they should be able to pay more attention to the complex part of the subjects. So I believe that is an idea that you can try yourself. And if you have like practical issues related to implementing it, I'm more than happy to help.
Thank you, sir. There are no more questions to me in the chat box. So thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your insights on behalf of GLS University's Faculty of Business Administration,
I'm thankful
formerly.
to you and Avni madam for inviting me, and I'm very happy with the way you manage it. I wrote to Avni madam that you deserve to be management gurus.
Thank you,
Very well done.
We look forward to more such interactions in the future, sir.
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, fine.
Dear participants, we have the next session at 3 p.m.
I'm sorry.
So if you want to stay here.
I'm sorry, Rikita ma'am. I'm sorry to interrupt here. We'll be starting with the next session slightly early. We'll be starting with the preparatory reading session at around 2:15. I request all the participants to take a break of 30 minutes and come back for the preparatory reading and deliberation at 2:15. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, participants.
Yes.